Hello everyone, welcome back to this object-oriented programming with Python series, and in this video we are going to discuss variables in OOP. So when we talk about variables in object-oriented programming, there are two types of the variables that we usually come across with. The first type is called instance variables, and the second type is called class variables, or we can also call them static variables. In this video moving forward, we will discuss both of these types and how we can use them in our object-oriented programming. So without further ado, let's just dive into this video. So first of all, we'll just go ahead and talk about instance variables. Okay, so as their name suggests, these are the variables that belongs to some instances, and we also know that we call objects as instances. So what we can understand from this is these are the type of variables that are defined in inside the methods or inside the constructor of the class. So these variables they usually change object to object, which means each object will have different values of these variables. So we'll just go ahead and create some of these variables so we can understand that what we are actually talking about. So first of all, I'll just go ahead and I will create a class, and we have been creating computer class, so I'll just go ahead and create that one, and inside it I will just go ahead and create an init function. In other words, this init function is a constructor in which we define our variables. Let's just take an example of computer, because we have taken the class of computer. So for example, we have a computer, and the computer it may have a certain RAM, and it may have certain hard disk drive, right? So we can just go ahead and use these two variables, like we can say RAM, and I can give it 512, and we can create hard disk drive, and so I can call it hard, and I will give this a value of 1000. Right now, these variables these belongs to this constructor inside this class. So whenever we will just go ahead and create objects of this class, these variable values will change object to object. So I'll just go ahead and let's see, I'll create a object. I'll call it computer, and I will call this object C1, right? Okay, so let's say that I create another object and I say this computer, but what I want is I change the value of this RAM for this object too, right? So I can just go ahead and I can say RAM is equal to, let's say, 4000, let's say. Okay, and after that what I will do, I'll just go ahead and I will print out my C1 dot ram, let's say, and I will print out c2 dot ram. I'll save this program and I will run this program. So here you can see both of these RAMs have been printed out. The first RAM of C1 object is 512, and the second RAM of C2 is 4000, because we changed it. So we can say that the values of these variables that were present in this init function, they depend on objects. So they change object to object, right? So that is why we call them instance variables, because they belong to instances of a class. On the other hand, when we talk about the class variables or static variables, so as their name suggests, they belong to a class. So for example, I'll just go ahead outside of this init function and inside this class, obviously, and I will create, let's say, a variable here, and we can call it as brand, right? So this brand we can say down. Now this variable belongs to every object that we will create of this class. So what I mean to say is uh, let's say I just go ahead and I write mm, c1 dot uh, hard, c2 dot hard, and sorry, and I will print the name of the class dot brand, right? And I will just go ahead and I will save this program and I will run this program. So here you can see the heart of the first object and the heart of the second object has been printed out. But here you can see for both of these objects we just call this class, and from this class we call the variable brand, right? So what happened actually here is that the value of this brand has been printed out, that is common between these objects. I'll just go ahead and I will what I will do, I will print out the values of C1 and C2 separately, and I will what I will do, I will also print out the value of the brand that is a class variable with both of them. So I can say C1 dot RAM, C2 dot hard, and here I can say computer dot brand, right? And here I can say print C, sorry, I had to write C1 hard here, and here I can say C2 dot RAM, C2 dot hard, and here I can say computer dot brand, right? So what I can do, I can just save this file and I will clear this prompt and we can run this program. So here you can see the RAM and the hard of C1 has been printed out, but the brand name is Dell. And same goes for the C2. RAM and hard has been printed out and the values are different, but here you can see the brand name is again Dell, right? So this variable is actually common between these two objects because we wrote this variable outside init function and inside of class. So that means this is a class variable. If I'll just go ahead and I will write something else here, let's say I will write IBM. So I can save this file and I will run this file, and you can see the value will change for both objects. Here you can see that Dell has been changed with IBM. So that is the difference between a static variable or a class variable and instance variable.